இனி Paramacharya and Western Thoughts விரிவாக விளக்க வருகின்றார் ஸ்ரீ அரவிந்த் சீதாராமன் அவர்கள். அவரை அன்புடன் நமது மேடைக்கு வரவேற்கின்றோம். ஸ்ரீ அரவிந்த் சீதாராமன் அவர்கள் கம்ப்யூட்டர் சயின்டிஸ்டாக 29 வருடங்கள் சிஸ்கோ பன்னாட்டு நிறுவனத்தில் தலைவராக பணிபுரிந்தார். இவரது உழைப்பால் 56 பேட்டன்ட்ஸ் பட்டியலிடப்பட்டன. சிஸ்கோ இந்தியா CSR முயற்சியால் ஃபீட் அ சைல்ட் அடாப்டர் ஸ்கூல் முதலியன துவங்கப்பட்டன. whatisIndia.com இந்த வலைத்தளம் இந்தியாவின் முதல் இன்டர்நெட் பேஸ்ட் இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் பேஸ்ட் ஆன் இந்தியா வழங்கியது. இந்தியாவை பற்றி வரலாற்று சார்பான உண்மையான ஆக்கப்பூர்வமான நுண் விஷயங்களை வெளியிட்டு கொள்கை வகுப்பவர்கள், கல்வியாளர், ஆராய்ச்சியாளர், முதலீட்டாளர்கள் இவர்கள் அனைவருக்கும் நம் நாட்டை பற்றி பிரதான ஆதாரங்களை அளித்து உதவி புரிந்தார். நமது புராதன கோவில்களில் கல்வெட்டெழுத்துக்கள் மொழிபெயர்க்கப்பட்டு டிஜிட்டலைஸ் செய்யப்பட்டுள்ளன. ஆர்கியாலஜி சர்வே ஆஃப் இந்தியா இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் அனைத்தும் இவர் கணினி மயமாக்கி உள்ளதால் சரித்திர ஆராய்ச்சியாளர்கள் பல நூற்றாண்டுகள் முன் நடந்த சரித்திர விஷயங்களை இன்டர்நெட் மூலம் பெற்று பயன் அடைகின்றனர். 2009 கர்நாடகாவில் வெள்ளம் வந்தபோதும் தென்னிந்தியர்கள் சுனாமியினால் பாதிக்கப்பட்ட போதும் மக்களுக்கு புனர்வாழ்வு அளித்து சேவை புரிந்தார். ப்ராஜெக்ட் சமுதாயா தன்னலமற்ற சேவை நிறுவனம் தொடங்கி தொழில்நுட்பம் மூலம் கிராமங்களுக்கு 3323 இல்லங்கள், ஒரு மருத்துவமனை, 2 பள்ளிகள் அமைத்து மறுவாழ்வு கொடுத்தார். இவரது சமூக சேவையை பாராட்டி 2012 மிகப்பெரிய ராஜ்யோத்சவா விருது கர்நாடக அரசு வழங்கி கௌரவித்தது. சிவகாமி அம்மாள் மெமோரியல் ட்ரஸ்ட் மூலம் கலைஞர்களுக்கு உதவிகள், நமது பாரம்பரிய கலை கலாச்சாரம் மேம்படுத்த முயற்சிகள் எடுத்து வருகிறார். SKK சுவாமிமலை வேத பாராயணம் ட்ரஸ்ட் அதன் ட்ரஸ்டியாக உள்ளார். சத்துணவு அளிக்கும் அக்ஷயா பாத்ராவின் நிர்வாக குழுவின் ஆலோசகராக உள்ளார். காஞ்சி மடத்துடன் இவர்களது குடும்பத்தாருக்கு நீண்ட வருட சம்பந்தம். இவரது மனைவியின் பாட்டனார் ஸ்ரீ TN கிருஷ்ணமூர்த்தி அவர்கள் 30 வருடங்களுக்கு மேலாக நம் மடத்தின் ஸ்ரீகாரியமாக இருந்தார். இவரது துணைவியார் ஸ்ரீமதி சௌமியா அவர்கள் இப்பொழுதும் நமது காஞ்சி மடத்தின் முக்கிய நிகழ்வுகளை பதிவு செய்து யூடியூபில் பதிவேற்றுகிறார். இந்தியன் கல்ச்சர் அண்ட் வேதிக் ட்ரெடிஷன்ஸ் இதன் ஆத்தர், பப்ளிஷர், டாக்குமெண்ட்ரி ஃபிலிம் மேக்கர் இவரது துணைவியார். நாகரிக விஞ்ஞான வளர்ச்சியில் கணினியில் இவரது சாதனைகள் ஒரு பக்கம், மற்றொரு பக்கம் அதே கணினியை நமது கலாச்சாரம் புராதன பெருமைகள் அறிய துணை புரிய செய்வது, பழமையும் புதுமையும் சங்கமிக்க செய்வது ஒரு சாதனை. இன்று பழமை மாறாத பாரதத்தின் மகானையும் அவரது மேற்கத்திய சிந்தனைகளையும் சங்கமிக்க செய்து நம்முடன் பகிர வருகின்றார் திரு அரவிந்த் சீதாராமன் அவர்கள். இனி மீண்டும் ஐயனின் சன்னதிக்கு செல்வோம்.
ஓம் சதாசிவ சமாரம்பாம் சங்கராச்சாரிய மத்யமாம் அஸ்மதாச்சாரிய பரியந்தாம் வந்தே குரு பரம்பராம். ஓம். President Sri Venkatraman, Vice President Sri Mahalingam, Chief Guest of today Sri Commodore Narayanan, and co-speaker Sri Sukhi Sivam. Great audience. எல்லாரும் படித்தா ரொம்ப படித்தா மாதிரி இருக்க படித்து பார்க்குறதுக்கு நல்லா இருக்குது பார்க்குறதுக்கு. ஸோ ஸ்ரீ செக்ரட்டரி ஸ்ரீ ஸ்ரீதர் சடனாக இன்றைக்கி ஒரு குண்டு போட்டார், தமிழில் பேசுங்க அப்படின்ட்டு. ஐ ஹேட் ப்ரிப்பேர்ட் த ஹோல் திங் இன் இங்கிலீஷ் அண்ட் சடன்லி he said speak in Tamil, but I'm going to mix it up. The subject is very different and it's kind of complex, so I'm going to try to cover things as much as I can. And let's see how it goes. மகாபரிவான்னு நம்ம கேட்டோம்னா நமக்கு என்ன தெரியும்? இவ்வளோ பெரிய ஞானி, இத்தனை புத்திசாலி, நம்ம மதத்தில் அத்தனை இன்ஃபர்மேஷன், எத்தனை நுணுக்கங்களையும் புரிஞ்சவர், மற்ற வாழ்க்கெல்லாம் எழுத்து சொன்னவர், குருவுக்கு குருவாக இருந்தவர். பல பேர் அவரோட ஆலோசனைகளை கேட்பா. அரசியர்கள், ஜட்ஜஸ், பெரிய பணக்கார, ஏழைகள் எல்லாரும் எல்லா விஷயமும் நிலமாக கேட்பாங்க. எல்லாத்தையும் பதில் சொல்வார். அவர் அது இருந்தாலே எல்லாருக்கும் ஒரு சந்தோஷம். எல்லா மனசுல இருந்த அத்தனை கஷ்டங்களும் தெரிஞ்சு போகிற மாதிரி இருக்கும். எல்லா சந்தேகங்களும் நிவர்த்தி போகிற மாதிரி இருக்கும். அவர்கிட்ட இருந்தாலே போகிறோம், அப்படிதான் இருக்கும். எனக்கு 2 வாட்டி தான் அவருக்கு தரிசனம் பண்ண வாய்ப்பு கிடைச்சிது. நான் சின்ன வயசில் இருக்கிறது. அப்புறம் ஜெயேந்திர பெரியவா கூட நிறைய சம்பந்தம் உண்டு எனக்கு. ஆனால் ஒரு விஷயம் அபவுட் மகாபெரிவா, people we may forget. At a very young age, he was exposed to English. He could understand, write, and discuss English very well. And he was exposed to Shakespeare plays very early, even he acted in some plays ahead of time. He understood photography very well. He experimented with it. He even had a dark room, his own dark room, to develop photography. எதுவுமே விட மாட்டார், எல்லாத்தையும் கற்றுட்டுருவார். எல்லாத்தையும் கற்றுண்டு எல்லாத்தையும் கேள்வி கட்டுண்டு எல்லாம் தெரிஞ்சுண்டு மற்றவாளுக்கு அதை நுணுக்கங்கள்லாம் எடுத்து சொல்லி அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு மகான் இருந்தார். But we need to forget, we forget that he used all this exposure to Western thought and technologies very early in his life to deconstruct it. He understood what Western thought was and the impact on mind, especially on unprepared Indian mind. It is very, very important for us to remember that. In our way of thinking, the ultimate goal is to seek moksha, the ultimate reality. And whatever we did, wherever we were born, whatever we did, however we were, the whole purpose in life was going towards moksha. On the other hand, if you see from a Western perspective, the whole perspective was, I need to be comfortable, I need to be prosperous, I need to pursue a happy life, here and now. This is one major setup. In our tradition, we had several janmas. ஜென்மமா பிறந்து அதில் நல்லது பண்ணி கெட்டது பண்ணி அந்த கர்மங்கள் தொடர்ந்து வந்து அந்த இன்ப துன்பங்களை அனுபவித்து நம்ம ரிஃபைன் பண்ணி நம்மளை மனசை சீர்திருத்தி நம்ம மோட்சம் அடைகிறது நம்மளோட பாரம்பரியம். அவளோட திங்கிங் என்னென்னா, எல்லாருக்கும் ஒரு ஜென்மா தான். ஜென்மா முடிஞ்ச உடனே கடைசியில் ஒரு நாளைக்கு ஜட்ஜ்மெண்ட் டேன்னு ஒன்று இருக்கும். அப்போ கடவுள் வந்து நீ வந்து இதெல்லாம் பண்ணியிருக்க, அதனால நீ வந்து ஹெவனுக்கு போ இல்லைன்னா ஹெல்லுக்கு போன்னு சொல்கிற மாதிரி அவளோட நம்பிக்கை. நமக்கு வந்து இதில் உபனிஷத்துகளில் ஆத்மாங்கிறது பரமாத்மாங்கிறது, புராணங்களில் பகவானுங்கிறது எங்கேயுமே உண்டு, பல ரூபங்கள் உண்டு. ஆனால் அவளுக்கு பகவான்னா ஹெவனில் தான் இருப்பார், சொர்க்கத்தில் தான் இருப்பார் அப்படின்ட்டு அவளோட இந்த மூணு இம்பார்ட்டண்ட் நீங்கள் ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கணும். இந்த லிஸ்ட் ஆஃப் த திங்ஸ் that I'm going to talk about is Paramacharya's observation on the Western thought, what they thought of us, how it impacted us, and what our response should be, how we should be. And basically he shows us the mirror and shows us how we need to look at it and why we need to look at it and how we should modify ourselves. So that's what I'm going to do. Most of the stuff I'm going to talk about are either direct quotes or paraphrasing what he said. There are places where I've inserted my own opinions. I will try to point that out because this is a very complex topic. So please bear with me. If there is any mistake, it's mine. Mahapariva ஒன்றும் தப்பு பண்ணாது, நான் தப்பு பண்ணதுன்னு அர்த்தம், எனக்கு புரிஞ்சது அவ்வளோதான் அர்த்தம். So let's deal with that. The first point is part is whole, is the whole. The way the West thinks is the part is the whole. They deal with every subject in an isolated manner. இப்போ ஒரு கோன் இருக்குன்னு வச்சுங்க, ஒரு கோன் இப்படி இருக்கும், டிராஃபிக் கோன் பார்த்துருப்பேன், அதில் ஓட்டை ரெண்டு பக்கமும் இருக்கும். அவள் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா என்ன பண்ணுவான்னா, முதல்ல அந்த ஹோலை தனியாக ஒருத்தன் பார்ப்பான், ஒருத்தன் வந்து இந்த மெட்டீரியல் எந்த மெட்டீரியலால் பண்ணுறதுன்னு பார்ப்பான், மெட்டீரியல் சயின்டிஸ்ட். இண்டஸ்ட்ரியல் இன்ஜினியர்ஸ் எப்படிலாம் யூஸ் பண்ணலான்னு பார்ப்பான், மார்க்கெட்டிங் பீப்புள் எப்படி விற்கலான்னு பார்ப்பான். நம்ம அப்படி கிடையாது. நம்ம பார்த்தோம்னா we look at the whole cone as a whole, then we look at every component of it, we understand all the components, and then we debate, is this cone by itself, is it part of something bigger, or is it different from something else? Advaita, Visishtadvaita, Dvaitam, Abdino Prichi Pakrat. Any topic we take, that's the way we look at it. It's a fundamental way. Now, the way they approach it as independent points, that's the reason why you find sometimes some people will say, coconut oil is bad for you. It's pure poison. Some people will come out and say. 2 years later, somebody will come and say, no, coconut oil is the best thing that can happen to you. Then there will be somebody who will come up and say, the reason why people get heart disease is because of cholesterol. Somebody then will come and say, no, that is not the reason. The real reason is sugar. So you find this change over and over and over again in the way they think of it, in how they look at stuff. But we don't. Second thing that they look at is mechanization. Mechanization to them, it solves all problems. Unfortunately, even governments today, thinkers today in India think that way. Mechanization solves all the problems. So where did it come from? Where did this thought process come from? The fundamental premise is this. If you don't experience something before you, it is not true. This is a Western thought. This is a very clear import that we have. You have to experience something to say that it is true. If it is not there, if you can't perceive it, then how can it be true? Right? So, with the way Mahabharata deals with it is very interesting. He says, okay, you have a methodology called empirical analysis. And through empirical analysis, you determine, you want to know if something is there or not, and what is the purpose of that, what are the properties of that. And then you figure out how you're going to use it. Then you create a machines for us. If these appliances are created for the comfort of people, great. Now, if you created this for the comfort of people, then if you take away these comforts, how would people react? இன்னைக்கு நடைமுறையில் இருக்கிறத யோசிச்சு பாருங்க. யார்கிட்டேந்தாவது அவ செல்போன் எடுத்துருங்க. இப்போ இந்த ரூம்ல யாராவது செல்போன் இல்லாம வந்திருக்கேளா? கொஞ்சம் கை தூக்குங்களே. உங்க நமஸ்காரம் பண்ணணும் உங்களுக்கு ஃபோன் பண்ணி. Lot of people are like that. They've lived 70 years without cell phone. But இப்ப தவிப்பா வெளியில போனோம்னா செல்போன் இல்லையே என் செல்போன் எங்க வச்சேன்? இத்தனை வருஷமா இருந்தேளே செல்போன் இல்லாம இருந்தேளே செல்போன் இல்லைன்னா என்ன அப்படின்னா கேட்க மாட்டான். You cannot, they go mad. So what started out as a science or an inquiry into making sure something exists or not turned out into products that we can use for our comfort. That comfort became a necessity without which we lose our senses. So Paramacharya quotes Nilakanta Shastri very appropriately. He said, if even after being born a man, one does not have a sense of discrimination, it would be better for such a one to be born an animal, since animals are not subject to the laws that controls the senses. Okay? It's very important. If we lose our discrimination, then what are we? We are no longer human beings. So what did we do? What is the reaction of people? Especially he talks about Brahmanas now. The first thing the Brahmana did was, he said, oh, I can see this experiment, I can see it work. Now what am I going to do? I will give up my whatever traditional way I used to do things. This is what I'm going to follow. Why? Because it gives me comfort. And once it gives me comfort, then I get used to it and it becomes a necessity. Then what you say is, I don't understand what is there in the Vedas, but I sort of understand what this is. Therefore, this is true, that is not true. And after a particular point, what happens is I start believing in a brand, whether it's Sony or whatever it is, equipment that is, and you start believing in Sony. You don't care whether the product works or does not work, whether it's going to outlive you or not outlive you, but you start believing in the brand irrationally. Now, how is it different? So we rejected the Vedas because We did not understand certain things, and we said, this is irrational. Now we are believing in a brand of a product that we may not understand how it works, but we follow it. Isn't that a contradiction in terms? So this is what it is. So we accuse Vedas or a tradition of things that we don't understand, but we are willing to believe something else. Why? Because it is here and now. I can believe, I can see it work, therefore it is true. We don't know I don't know how my good deeds and bad deeds are going to help you. Adrishta balan eppadi varum theriyadhu, paapam eppadi varum theriyadhu, ஆனா இது எனக்கு முன்னாடி தெரியாது, அதனால இதை நம்புவேன் அப்படின்னு மனசு மாறி இருக்கு. It's a very important thing to understand our own psychology of how we do this. So what he also says is that இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு thinking இருக்கிறதுனால he looks at, specifically he's talking about Brahmanas. Because of his ancestors, all the good things that they've done. ஒரு சைக்கிளில் நம்ம மது சொன்னா சில சமயம் சைக்கிளில் நம்ம பெடல் படுறது நிறுத்தினா கூட நகர்ந்துட்டே இருக்குமோ இல்லையோ. பெரிய ஆச்சாரிகள் என்ன சொல்றான்னா, அந்த மாதிரி நம்ம ஆன்சிஸ்டர்ஸ் நல்ல விஷயங்கள் பண்ணியிருக்கா, அதனால நம்ம கோர்ஸ் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம், அதனால நமக்கு புத்தி இருக்கு. அந்த புத்தியை நல்ல விஷயத்துக்கு யூஸ் பண்ணாம இந்த வேண்டாத விஷயத்துக்கு ஒரு டிரான்சிட்டரி விஷயத்துக்கெல்லாம் புரிஞ்சுட்டு நம்ம யூஸ் பண்றோம். இப்போ அப்புறம் லேட்டர் ஆன் இன்னொரு பெரியவா சொல்லியிருக்கா, அந்த இருக்கிற டைம் இருக்கிற புத்தியை நல்ல விஷயங்களை பற்றி பேசாமல் நமக்கு கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ணாமல் விஷயங்கள் பாலிடிக்ஸ் சினிமா அதை பற்றி பேசிட்டு இருக்கோம் அப்படிமா. Both are the same, right? So towards that, how that corrupts the mind, how it changes the mind is the important aspect. So mechanization does bring comfort. We all use mechanization. Look at this mic we speak, that is a machine. Sitting on the chair is a machine. We come here in a car, that is a machine. It does give you comfort. But it comes at a cost. What is the cost? The cost is this. Seeing the Brahmana occupy these jobs that the British created during colonial times. And because of that peddling effect, so he was very good at all these jobs. And because he was very good at all these jobs, everybody thought, oh my God, he's prospering, we are not. He's supposed to be the guy who should show us the way, who should give up all comforts in life, and who should be working for us. He has given it up and he's gone there and he's doing well, but we are not. So this kind of a jealousy has created, and there's a huge competition for jobs. And because there's a competition of jobs, and obviously the British whole policy is divide and rule. They wanted to, create the divide more and more. So they created something called the Aryan-Dravidian race, theory of races, saying that Brahmanas are from somewhere else, the invasions, they came as somebody else. You are the locals, you are divided. So they saw that there was a contention going on between people, and they divided us very well. So what that division created was a hatred. There was some degree of hatred that came towards the Brahmana. Now the Brahmana did something worse. What he did was, he basically gave up all his tradition and gave up all the work that he's supposed to do, but he followed a different thing in seeking money. But he thought he was superior. In the olden days, and he stayed aloof from everybody, he never mixed with anybody. In the olden days, Brahmanas did live alone. Why did they live alone? Because they had certain rituals and rites and practices and requirements of them that required them to stay alone. They had to stay alone so that their whole purpose was to do good for humanity through prayer. That was their essential purpose through the Vedas, learning and Parayanam of Vedas and doing all the karma anushtanams for other people. That's the reason. Adalla vittu they've gone. So they've forgotten the fundamental premise of what they were. They still thought they were superior, they still stayed aloof. Now everybody thought in an industrialization and urbanization situation, what happens? Everybody comes to work at the same time. They go to a factory, the canteen at the same time. They eat together, they work together, they earn the same money. So then what is the difference between a Brahmana and a Brahmana? So everybody thought, hey, you are the same of me, why do you think you are different and why do you think you are superior? So they started hating that person even more. So why should there be, if you look at it, so then there became questions. they don't mingle with us. If you are not following your karma anushthanams, then you are not an essential brahmana in many ways, but you essentially thought you were. So the way Paramacharya looks at it is that if a brahmana follows a life of a brahmana as thing in the Vedas, stipulated in the Vedas, and if there's a Kshatriya who follows his duties as stipulated by the Vedas, there is no reason for them to mingle with each other. Reason is, the Kshatriya eats meat so that he is strong to defend the borders of the country and to administer the country. The Brahmanas follows a very sattvic lifestyle so that he can improve his intelligence, study and do sattvic karyams. So if they mingle, the Brahmana may be tempted to eat meat and may give up his anushtanams, which we've seen happened a lot. The Kshatriya may be enamored by this lifestyle and the sattvic behavior of the Brahmana and his beautiful perspective on life, and may become sattvic himself, therefore endangering the kingdom. So what Acharya says is, it is not necessary for them to mingle. To demonstrate that they like each other or they love each other, occasional coming together is okay. But if you're going to follow your traditions, it is okay to stay separately as long as you trust each other. And sadly, that trust has been broken. So mechanization, it comes to show basically the previous point, that if you say mechanization brings development, it brings development but at a cost. And you can't look at only revenue coming in as your gain. You have to also factor in the social tensions, the social fights that you have for resources, and the distrust that happens. Because without an individuals coming together, they cannot make a society. Without society functioning very well, there cannot be development. Without development, there cannot be greatness. So he deconstructs it to say, the reason why we are not great before, because development has stopped. Development has stopped because people are not doing what they supposed to do, and they are not doing that because they've lost their individuality. That's how he's deconstructed this thing. So it is important to deconstruct the problem, and important for people to say, this is my varna and this is what I'm supposed to do. Therefore, I will do it the way I want to do. And if everybody does the same thing, then there is no problem. The next thing that I want to deal with is a Western notion that religion is anti-science. Today, the modern mind, as they call it, the modern mind thinks that if they don't see something, if they don't experience something, it's not right. So if you take somebody, especially who's English educated in science and who has no exposure to Vedanta or to the Vedas, if you ask them and if you tell them that Ishvara's breath was used by Brahma to create the world, he will laugh. He will get agitated even, saying, what nonsense are you speaking? Right? It does seem like nonsense when you think about it prima facie. If you took away yourself from this, what is this Ishvara? What is breath? What is Brahma? Why is that creation? It does sound a little ridiculous. So what Acharya does is, he goes and deconstructs it very beautifully. He said, think about a radio station. Somebody is singing there. Their voice is transmitted to electromagnetic waves, and it's in the air. Nobody can see it. How can you hear the music? You require a radio or a TV or something that can then take that sound, deconstruct it, and play it back to you as a music or a speech or whatever it is, and you're able to hear. Even 100 years ago, we didn't know that this was possible. How can something that is not perceivable, data that is not perceivable, how can it be transferred over the air? Today, that will be very surprising if people don't have Wi-Fi at work. It will be very surprising. Everybody has a Wi-Fi. We don't know what it is. We don't know how it works. Well, I know what it is because I'm part of creation of it. But most of us don't understand what it is. But we will use it. Why? It is convenience. Now we are willing to accept that this works and this is how it happens. How many of you don't use email? Almost a few people, okay. All of you use email. How many of you know how email works? Not how to send email. How does it work? Nobody knows. Somehow it works. We are okay to accept it. Somehow it works. Now Acharya asks, if you have so much faith in that, why wouldn't you have so much faith in Shastras? Right? So he says, our rishis are people who are like these transistors, who are specialized equipment. Through their tapas, they have these extra sensory skills that they can hear, they can perceive, they can see things that us as common people cannot see. But they are able to see it. Does that make them, can we say, oh, we are not able to see it, so he can't do it? After all, there was one person called Gayatri Devi who used to compute amazing amount of numbers. Now, if somebody had told you about Gayatri Devi and you've never seen her on TV or other things, would you say that there is such a person is possible or not? Most people will say, I don't know, but this is what somebody is saying, I don't know. Why? Because we are so conditioned to thinking that way. So you need to have a degree of faith to understand that what you cannot perceive is not necessarily untrue or not there. You don't know what it is. So then he cites another example. A patient is taken to a hospital. Intense care is given for this person. The patient dies. Do we say, oh, this medical science is useless, we need to reject it? We don't. Do we? No, we won't. What we will say, oh, they took the body, they took the person too late, the disease was too deep, maybe they didn't give good treatment. We'll make up excuses, all kinds of excuses. Take the same thing and apply it to Varuna Japam. There is a Varuna Japam that happens. Now, Varuna Japam, ellarum vandu Varuna Japam pandra, mala varunu paakra, mala varala. Then is ஏமாத்து ஏன்னா எதுக்கு ஏமாத்துறாங்க எல்லாரும் பணத்தை வாங்கிட்டு ஏமாத்துறாங்க வரணுமா ஜபமா ஏதோ போட்டாங்களா மழை கொட்டுமா இது எப்படி முடியும் அப்படின்னா would you apply the same logic to the other way? Varuna Japam is something that is an exact, like an operation that needs to get done. Your diet, the way the mantras are chanted, the procedures, everything has to be followed very importantly because it is a kamya karma. We want rain and therefore everything needs to be extra perfect. If even one thing is not right, it will work. Now, why can't we accept that point of view? We will accept this other point of view, but we won't accept this other point of view, which is a thing. If an electrician wants to change the light, he refuses to wear electric gloves, as most electricians in India do. They won't stand on a wood. He endangers himself. He endangers himself and us at the same time. So, அந்த மாதிரி வேணா ஷாக் அடிக்குமா இல்லையா? இப்போ யோகா சரியா கத்துக்காம யோகா பண்ணா நமக்கு ஹர்ட் ஆகுமா இல்லையா? இப்போ if for material things, if so much procedure needs to be followed, what about immaterial things, non-material things and transient things that you can't see, that you can't perceive? You obviously have to have a lot more care in the process of what it is. The next topic that we will talk about is science can explain religion. So many people reject Vedas because they don't know what it is. When the school level, at the media, movies, they all make fun of Hinduism. They say, that, there was this old movie called Padosi. They made fun of him. So I'm digressing, but this is an interesting anecdote I want to share. Mahabharata long ago, Atharva Vedam, he read an inscription that Atharva Vedam was present in South India. It was also present in Gujarat. Pata South yaaro Atharva Veda practitioners kedaiyadu. Enna achunu theriyala. So what he did was he somehow created a sadas where he called the top prominents of Atharva Vedam to one place. And we said we need to protect it, otherwise this is going to die. He realized there were only two shakas left of Atharva Vedam. One was Shaunaka Shaka, which had the Swaram, but no people to follow. Other one was Pipla Chaka that did not have the Swaram, but many people followed. So he didn't know what to do. So what he said was, I will send 2 young people who had already studied their Veda, their Swashaka Veda, Krishna Yajurveda, Ivala Gujarat Kanamche, Ava Tangi, Ava Padichi, Inga Kundu Vartam. Abdinto Amcha. Now when these guys went there, அப்பதான் the Padosino or Padavandadu போல இருக்கு வெளியில நான் பார்த்ததில்லை. In fact, people told me about it and I tried to see it, but I couldn't do it. They made a lot of fun, Padosi into. Lot of people in that area started making fun of them, but the elders got together and they caught hold of these ruffians who were making fun of them and kind of beat them up. And only after that, they were able to learn Atharva Veda and come back. Today, to cut to the end of the story, today there are 200 Ganapatis in South India because of these 2 people. Now, so why did we get into this, all this stuff? Because we make fun. Movies and school and all these things make fun of Vedas because, and they said it's unscientific, it's regressive, and it's backward looking. How can you follow something like that? They said it is a system where somebody took advantage of somebody else. How can you support all these things? Initially, the people who said all these things were missionaries, British missionaries who came. What is the purpose of a missionary? Is to convert. How do they do that? Is to make you feel bad about yourself. Okay, that's how they created. They wrote about all these things. And then what happened was they used translations. Who did they use for translation? Somebody who knew, none of them knew Sanskrit. So they hired people who knew Sanskrit and who also knew English to translate these books. Based on that, they would create some story. Now, in their tradition, one of the important things is that they never go to the source to check whether a foundation or a premise is right or not. If it is published somewhere, the assumption is that somebody else has done the due diligence and therefore it is right. So they took advantage of that. What they did was they took the translations from these people, and many of them who translated were Shastris. Our English, it's subpar. And they translated the best they want. These people added their own masala to it, and they created stories and a narrative. And guess what? That has become the basis of what it is. In Surya Siddhanta, there was a missionary who translated it, quote unquote. He says that in India, they do not believe in the question of a week. No varam, abdin onnume kedaiyadu. Ana, they follow 7 days, and the 7 days keep repeating themselves. Do you understand the irony? There is no sense of varam for us. Ana, there is a question of vara for us per day. And it repeated itself every 7 days, but they didn't call it a week. Therefore, it is not a week. Surya Siddhanta translation, I think it is, his name is Reverend Burgess or something. அது படிச்சேன்னா தெரியும். ரொம்ப இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங்காக இருக்கும் அவளோட editorial comments about what they said. So therefore, they published all these books, and we basically used that as a foundation, and we started, we were conditioned to start quoting their narrative. So we are parroting their narrative, not even speaking it, parroting their narrative. And even in the scientific sphere, there were issues. There was an equation in Apastamba Sulabha Sutras. Adila Apastamba had created a formula. Some Western mathematicians worked on this and they couldn't figure out. They said it is wrong. Because they couldn't solve it. So they said it is wrong. After a particular period of time, there were other people who came in and they were able to prove it. Now what happened? There was no apology. There was no acknowledgement that they made this condescending remark. Quietly they accepted it. This is how they look at our the Shastras that they do not understand. Now people who are very accomplished in their scientific spheres, they are actually amazed at how many such formulae are there or information is there in our Shastras, and nobody knows how to solve them. Like Ramanujam, namak therinjadhu Ramanujam, the great mathematician, created so many theorems. Now there are entire departments of mathematics in several colleges trying to make sense of these theorems. Initially they were all rejected, saying, oh, this is all nonsense. Then now they are trying to say, oh my God, it is true. Some of them are true, so therefore the others must be true. So they are trying to figure out how to make it true. So they need to see, otherwise they won't understand. Goes back to my first point that I made earlier. So the fundamental thing is that because of these incidents, they conclude that whatever is there in Vedas has to conform. It has to be conform and needs to be proved by science. Some other people think that if Vedas, which are beyond the realm of science, should be brought within science. One group of people say that Vedas need to be constructed with science. Some of them, if you don't understand something within the ambit of science that we know today, other people think it should be brought within that. Both of it is wrong, is Acharyal's opinion. Because if a concept is not understandable by science today, does not make it wrong. Right? Why? Because you don't know it. Just because you don't know it doesn't mean that it is not true. And at the same time, if you take our people, what they will do is they will say, I don't understand it, therefore it is not there. But they were willing to accept scientific notions, whether they understand it or not, say, oh, this was said by this scientist. I don't understand it, but I will accept it. So this is the paradox in thinking how it is. So let me give you another example. Actually, this is Acharyal's example. I'll state another example. People who work in corporates, how many of you work in a corporate or did work in a company? So, some amount of people. So you worked in a company, meetings people will come late, especially if it's a multinational. Most of the people who come late are Indians. So the first thing they will say is Indians don't have a sense of time. So this is very, very unfair. It's not untrue, it's completely untrue. Why? Because we had a huge concept of time and a huge understanding of time. Because we had something called the Panchangam, the Anjangam, Panchangam, almanac. And it contained 5 things. One is the Tithi. A Tithi is the apparent angular relationship between the sun and the moon with respect to earth. Okay? Second is Vara, the day of the week. There is no sense of a week. Third is Nakshatra, the constellation with which the moon rises. Fourth is Yogaha, which is the difference between the apparent moon and apparent sun causing certain effects on earth. 5 is Karana, the midpoint of a Tithi. 5 points, important points. Now what has happened is, there was somebody called a Panchanga Karan who understood all these things. If you go talk to a Panchanga Karan, he'll tell you if you want to do this kind of a work, he'll compute and say this is the most auspicious time to do something. Today what happens? The number of Panchanga Karans have come down really low. You know why? Acharya tells us. He says, we started printing these Panchangams. Panchangams now are available for the whole year and it is available for a very low cost. We buy it. All of us now are able to read the Panchangam, but we don't know the science behind it. So can you imagine that the whole country, there was somebody in any village, every village, there was somebody who understood the science behind it. And those who are interested can go and learn from this person. Today, there is nobody in these villages in many parts of the country who knew the science behind it, but there are a lot of people who can use the Panchangam. So, not only science not solve everything about a religion, if you are not careful, it will also cannibalize what we already know. This is a very important point. The next thing that we talk about is the written word. For the Western way of thinking, if it is not written, it is not ancient, it is not true. It didn't exist. This is a fundamental premise. That's the way they think. For us, it is not so. In fact, most of the mathematicians, scientists, scholars, and great thinkers in India did not write. They didn't know how to write. Ramakrishna Paramamsa, avlo peri ஞானி, அவருக்கு பெங்காலியில கூட சைன் பண்ண தெரியாதாம். அவரை ஞானின்னு ஒத்துக்கிறோமோ இல்லையோ? So, to us, writing is not important at all. Then the question is, how were these people educated? They were educated because they heard. They heard what somebody else said. They thought about what it is, and they came up with some theories, and they taught their students. They didn't have to go read something. So if you look at in Tamil, the Vedas are called Ezhuda Kelavi, unwritten text. Sanskrit is Shruti, something that is heard. There's nowhere that is said that you have to write it and you need to understand how to write. So hearing and learning is how we have to deal with it. So an entire science called Shiksha Shastra originated. And it is more important for Vedic language than any other language in the world. It deals with the pronunciation, different parts of your mouth, what sound comes. That's why Sanskrit is a very complete language, because it includes all the sound a man can make or a human can make. So the Shiksha Shastra became very, very prominent and used. And they used things like Padam, Kramam, Jata, Gana, and all these technologies were used to preserve the Veda. So what is the benefit of this thing? If you see, how many of you, I don't know, have gone to Egypt? Egypt, you've seen all the hieroglyphics on the walls of various tombs. Most people can't read it. Very few people can interpret it. Even if people actually interpret it, it's not necessarily accepted, because it's guesswork of what it is. Same thing with the Indus script. We are struggling saying, okay, what is this word? What is this character? We don't know. It's all guesswork in terms of what it is. So we can't actually interpret these things, even though they are recorded and kept there. But on the other hand, if you take Veda, for millennia, we've had it followed. Sometimes some cataclysmic event happens. Kumari Kandam, Avinji Poche, whole thing is gone, whole civilization, whole set of knowledge, all the stuff that they were great, and they talk about how beautiful it was, all of that is gone. Sanskrit has still survived. In fact, our civilization is the only civilization that has survived today, ancient civilization that survives today. And Vedas is the only ancient text that survives today. Why? Because it was oral rendering. It has got nothing to do with writing. And the other aspect of this is that when you teach somebody something, it is now their responsibility to maintain it and to transmit it. So because with all these tools, a Brahmana from Kashmir can chant the same Veda with a Brahmana in Tamil Nadu without a problem. They'll be completely different Gana. Gana, it's like a checksum. 1, 2, 3, number. Kashmiri may say 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. The Tamil Nadu Gana may be 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's a different Gana. Each 1, 2, and 3 are syllables. So not a single syllable will be out of place with the two different shakas. Because when they come to do the Parayanam or the chanting together, they will all chant together. There won't be any kind of a difference between the two. You can't say. Because the Shiksha, which is pronunciation, is very, very important, and it follows very, very clearly. In our tradition, if somebody reads and chants the Veda, that person is considered Adama, lowest form of person. Lowest form of chanter of Vedas, not a person, but lowest form of chanting is called Adama. So, therefore, the writing part of it is not important to us. What is most important is the listening, the internalization, the thinking of it, and the transmission. That is why in India, we came out with so many mathematical equations. But you'll never find a proof. A lot of people will say, oh, India has all these theorems, but they don't have proof. Because there are three aspects to it. One is to come up with a concept, get a proof, find a theorem. In India, we have a lot of theorem. We don't know what the proof is, and we don't know where the concept originated. Now we are beginning to accept the concepts originated in the Veda, and in various sutras the equation exists. Then the question is, where is the proof? We didn't record the proof because each individual who learnt these equations knew how to solve them. And they could solve it themselves. any time they could deconstruct this thing and say, okay, you want to prove this, I will prove it for you. But instead what they did was, they took the technology, they didn't thrust the whole concept into everybody's mind. They made it into a small technology that everybody can use. If you see the astronomy and astrology aspect of it, there were several scholars who knew it. But they didn't really transmit all of them to everyone. They made it into a Panchangam related work, and they gave it to all the Panchanga-karans who can benefit from it, who can make money of it, who can survive. Why? For the greater benefit of other people. Who benefited? Did the person, the astronomer or the astrologer benefit from it? No, because he excluded himself from it. But whereas on the Western side, what they would do, the first thing they would do, they would patent it. They would patent it and say, this is mine, and therefore I want to make money. And therefore, it is denied for other people. So in our way, we teach people the formula, we teach them how to solve it, but the proof is not necessarily written down because we didn't believe in writing. The next topic would be about whether Vedas need to be taught like any other subject. Now in Western universities, there are the South Asian chairs, there's India chair, and so on and so forth. And there are Christian studies, Islamic studies department and all that. So now it has become sort of a fashion in the West, and now it's catching on in India very fast. And it's even being propagated by certain parties, political parties in India, which claim that they are custodians of Sanatana Dharma. That Vedas are just like any other vocation. It's like teaching geography. We can teach geography, teach Vedas. Why can't we teach Vedas in university? Why do we need to have all these patashalas and all that? So Perivar takes a very grim view of these kinds of things. It's a very, very dangerous thing. The reason why he said is, look, Vedas is not about learning something so you can make money. Remember what the Western premise is? If you learn a subject, why do you learn a subject? You learn a subject because you can get a job, you can start a business, and you can make money. Vedas is not about that. Vedas is about learning something and doing good for other people and yourself being voluntarily poor. Okay, even if you got a grant from other people, you have to be voluntarily poor. You should not say that I have money, therefore I will buy a yacht, I will buy a plane. In contemporary world I'm talking about. It's not about that. In those days, the rishis did not say, I will buy myself my own chariot, I'll buy myself a own horse, my own elephant. That's not how they thought. So the whole purpose was very different. It is not about making money. That's number one. Second is, it's not just about rote memorization. It is about how you follow the injunction of the Vedas. In fact, the Vedas themselves say, if you follow the injunctions correctly, only then these mantras will be effective. Otherwise, they won't be effective. If you call some Vadyar to your house and he's drinking all kinds of things and he's talking on the cell phone all the time, but he's doing a homam for you, guess what? Your homam is not going to work. Okay, I'm not saying that, Acharya is saying that. Okay, so you have to have that kind of a tapas, that kind of a background, that kind of a attitude towards it. It is about who learns the Veda, why do they learn it, how do they learn it, what do they use it for, and how they use it. All of that has to come in. If all of them need to be taught it, do you think it can be taught like geography or a history en masse to other people? No, it cannot. It has to be done by a competent acharya. One has to learn it in a systematic manner for a period of time under the tutelage of a competent guru, in the company of supportive, productive and sattvic students. If it is not there, it won't work. Because if the student, if your peer group is not supportive of you, do you think you can learn Vedas? They will only make fun of you. They'll say, why are you wearing your shika this way? Why do you need to have a shika? Is the first question. A lot of people actually face this. In fact, there are several integrated patashalas that the Kanchi Matam develops. This is a major problem for kids because they're made fun of. Remember the Padosi story? It comes back over and over again and it gets replayed. So we talked also about the purpose of learning. Okay. The next issue is spirituality and rituals. There is a huge movement now in the world now, it's very apparent. It's called spiritual, not religious. I don't know if you've heard of it. Today. But Acharya talks about it 40 years ago. He's already seen it. He's already seen this come. He said, people want to be spiritual, but they don't like rituals. In many ways, it's like this, and these are my own words. You want to do postdoctoral degree, or postdoctoral studies in mathematics, and you haven't gone to school. Is it possible? I think there are only 1 or 2 exceptions in the world where somebody like that has happened. In mathematics, I'm talking about, who actually did not have any other degree except a PhD. My son, who's studying PhD in mathematics, told me that. But other than that, you cannot. For most people, you have to go through school, you have to go through your undergraduate, you have to go through master's program, then you have to do PhD. Only then you will be able to understand the level of mathematics that you will cover at that kind of stage. Spirituality is like that. Even Adi Shankaracharya himself says that one has to go through rituals to cleanse one's mind first, to prepare. It's like this, you have the best plant. You take the best seedling from somewhere and you want to grow it. It is a jasmine plant. You live in Antarctica or Alaska. You want to plant it out. It's the best seedling. Will that work? No, obviously not. Why? Because it's not suitable for that kind of environment. You need to create the environment around it for you to be able to work. So, how do you create that environment? Is by creating this conditioning that happens with rituals. So if you take a best soldier in the world, do you think he was born a best soldier? No, he learned how, he learned soldiering. And he has to practice soldiering every day. If he doesn't practice it every day, guess what? When he gets into a battlefield, he is not going to be effective. Now, what is soldiering? We have a soldier sitting there right before us as well. If you don't have that kind of a ritual, that is a ritual. So practicing with your arms is a ritual. You are not going to be a good enough soldier. The same way, you need to do your conditioning over and over and over again till you get to a point where you can get into Atma Vichara. Atma Vichara means inquiry into what Atma is. So how do you do that? There is something called a Mimamsa and Nyaya. I won't get into the details of it because it is very important. But one important thing with rituals. We all do this Sankalpam. Mamopata Samasta Duridakshedwara Lamannual. Right? When we do. Whoever does a homam will have to do this. They won't say anything, they will just listen to what the Vadyar says, most of them. Some people will actually repeat what the Vadyar. And in many, some temples in North India, when you go there, he will make you the Sankalpam and he will say that I will do the Sahasrakoti Japam. And he'll say your puja is over. I said, wait a minute, you just did Sankalpam on my behalf, saying the Sahasrakoti Japam is going to do. When are you going to do this Japam? Because I've taken an oath, I've taken a promise to do this thing, Sankalpam. So when is that going to happen? So it's important to understand it. What Sankalpam includes is your specific location and your space. Location and time at this particular time. So basically what you say is, I am so and so, I am in this place. At this particular point in time, I am doing this ritual. So it basically brings your conscious to how you are part of the big whole. And you keep doing this over and over again till you come to a point that you realize that you are the whole. Advaita. Okay? Then the next topic that Acharya covers is conscience. Now it's very fashionable for people to say that I listen to my inner voice. So a politician also actually said that. I listen to my inner voice. What is an inner voice? It's a conscience. What is conscience? Conscience is manasakshi. Sakshi na witness. How can a witness be a judge? Witness is somebody who has witnessed something and is going to tell you. Conscience never lies. Manasakshi never lies. It's going to tell you. Now the question is, how do we make the conscious the judge of what it is? And this is an important point. What Acharya says is that, look, you cannot, if everybody starts saying, I believe that this is so, and therefore it needs to happen, then what will happen? There won't be any law and order. Many of the people, the arsonists and other people, they do things why? Because they think it is right. There is no overall law that governs what they think, because they think that I don't agree with this law. Sadly, in a constitutional democracy or a constitutional country of any kind, you don't get to choose. Constitution is absolute. You have to take every word of it, every law of it, and you have to follow it. But these people will say, I don't believe in it. These anarchists will say, I don't believe in this law. This law is not correct. It doesn't represent me. So therefore, it becomes a law and order issue. So what he says is, we have to accept the Vedas are the prime, and that is the foundation. Over that, there are these smritis that are written. The Vedas are not written by human beings. They are heard by rishis and documented. So therefore, they are not created, they are not man-made entity. It's not a man-made entity. Over that, smritis have been written by great sages who have understood the world, who have understood the Veda very well, and they're giving it to you in a form that you can understand. Okay, you can't understand that, go to the next step. Go to Puranas. Look at incidents that may have happened. Follow somebody who has been exalted. Sri Rama was an exalted person who believed in Dharma, who believed in the Vedas, who understood the Vedas, who lived life not for himself but for Dharma. That is a person you need to follow. If you don't understand that, then look at Itihasas. Look at in Itihasas, Ramayana, the actual Itihasa, it's not a Purana, but Rama, I just said it because in the force of the moment. In Itihasa, follow somebody from Itihasa or follow a great rishi. And then you can look at somebody contemporary that you idealize. It can't be a Shah Rukh Khan or a Tendulkar. It has to be somebody who lives by Dharma, for Dharma, and who has to have some character. And that kind of a person that you will follow. If all that fails, then conscience is your last resort. Even then, a conscience has been witness to all your debates, internal and external, all your conversations with various people for you to understand how do you resolve this shankatam, this issue that you have that you want to solve. And it has been witness to it. So it can tell you, you talk to all these people and this person told you that, that person told you that, and then it help you make a decision, but it cannot be the decision maker. You have to make the decision based on free will. Now, the other topic that Periva talks about, I have about 15 minutes, right? I started at 7. Yes, right? I have 15 minutes, okay. I have still several more, so I wanted to race through it or cut through some of them. Another issue that Periva talks about is how there is a prevalent notion that Western thinking is more nuanced than us. We even had a prime minister who said, we need to develop scientific temper in this country. And guess what? That got into our constitution too, that we need to develop scientific temper. What it means is an acknowledgement that we did not have such a scientific rigor in our country. What great injustice is this? I've just given you several examples where so many commentaries and so many things that have been created, how they can't be created out of vacuum. They've been created with nuanced thinking. And yet we agree that there is scientific rigor that needs to be, we don't have that. And therefore we have to look to the West to learn about our own culture. It's not about learning something that they've invented. To know our culture, because we are not scientifically rigorous, we have to go listen to what somebody else said about us. This is a very, very sad development that is there. Now, the Westerners, I've told you, have all authored books, and they've based on referencing each other, and if you dig down deep enough, it will be some translation made by some Shastri incorrectly, which is now floated around as the main thing. For example, Manush Smriti, it is the most maligned book there ever. I think there are something like 16 versions of it. One version, which is called the Vulgate, the original version, was chosen by whom? A British missionary. Why? Because it was the most derisive of all. Okay, so let's not get into too much detail, but essentially it comes down to 3 points as to why that's such a perspective exists. Paramacharya has only talked about two. I've added my third, and I will point out what that is. The first one is a persecution remembrance. In the Western world, what has happened is people who thought anything different from their religion were persecuted. They were burnt at the stakes. They were crucified because they had a different view than the Bible, or they had a different view than the Quran. Okay? So this happened, and people remember that. And they think, wait a minute, it has happened in Christianity and Islam, therefore it should have happened in Hinduism also. It's not true. We never persecuted anybody. In fact, Appaya Dikshada, we'll talk about one example. Aristotle lived several hundred years before the advent of Christianity. And Aristotelian theory of geocentric world, the earth is the center, all bodies move around it, including the sun, was the prominent thing of Aristotle. And the Bible has certain sentences in it that corroborates it. It says, yes, the earth is the center of the universe. So the Christian view, European Christian view, was that the earth is the center of the view. In comes Galileo Galilei. He says, he comes up with the heliocentric theory, and he said, the sun is the center and everything goes around it. What happens? The first thing was that this was heresy. He was penalized, he was gone dragged to court, he was threatened, and finally he had to accept that geocentrism is right. Even though he muttered under his breath that heliocentrism is right. But he had to say that geocentrism is right. So that such kind of persecution existed in there. Saying, we don't have a single case where somebody said something different and was persecuted for it by any king. The second thing that he brought up was the superiority of science complex. Now, the way the West thinks is because they've created these machines and they have generated so much wealth and they've transferred wealth from old countries like India and China to other places, they are superior. They have the superiority complex. We are superior. We know what we are talking about. Now, if you look at Appaya Dikshata's work, in 100 years before Galileo, Appaya Dikshadar quotes a portion from Rigveda and says, the sun neither rises nor sets. He basically is saying that it is appearing to you as it's rising and setting, but it's not rising and setting. We are going around it, is basically what he said. But who is called as the father of physics and astronomical physics and experiential physics? It is Galileo Galilei, 100 years later, not Appaya Dikshadar. I won't be surprised if somebody later on came and said, Appaya Dikshadar was the Galileo of India. That is also possible. It may happen at some point in time. Okay, so we knew, and the more important thing is this. And Galileo came up with some great theories about the shape of the universe, and he described it to be an egg and all that. In our Upanishad, there is this world called Brahmanda. Heard that? The universe is shaped like an egg. We've already said it so many years ago. But remember, because it's not written, it is not proven, therefore it is not acceptable. And we can't expect them to accept it either. Now comes the third point, which is my own theory and my own postulation. It's not Acharya's. Acharya was a lot more nuanced about it, this topic, but I'm going to be a little blatant. The third thing is a racist prejudice. Now, it comes from their religion. If you take Christianity, it says there are Christians and non-Christians. A non-Christian is called a heathen. He has very limited rights in the world. He has to be condemned. But he also needs to be saved. How do you save him? You convert him to Christianity, all his papam goes away, and he is free. This is the biblical view. The Quran says that there are Muslims and Kafirs. If you are a Muslim, you're okay. You have right of access to heaven. If you are a Kafir, you have no rights here, or in heaven you have no rights. So it is actually sanctioned. These kinds of things are sanctioned in the religious texts, and therefore things like slavery, racism, fascism, all these things originate from that. We don't have those kinds of things. In fact, in our system, we don't blame anybody for anything. We give them guidelines and let people deal with how they want to do and let their karma deal with how it is. We don't actually blame them for all these things. Then the other important difference between us and the West is that in the West, I alluded to this earlier, knowledge is power. If you have invented something, you will patent it, and the purpose is to make a lot of money. In our tradition, if you invented something or you found something, you teach it to a bunch of students, create technologies about it, give it away to a lot of Vaishyas so they can make a lot of money, and they will do good things with it. That is our approach. It's fundamentally different. So let me skip to some areas which is contentious. Social imbalance. You know, big criticism against Hinduism is this. They say, oh, you have all this caste system. It's terrible. The caste system is not Hindu. That's the first thing. Ours is called a Varnashrama Dharma. Varnashrama Dharma essentially divides the society into four: Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, but also classifies them into three groups: birth, occupation, and guna. So, somebody could be born in one Varna, do the work in a different Varna, have a guna of a different Varna. Let me give you an example. Ravana. What was his birth? Brahmana. What was his occupation? Kshatriya. What was his guna? Shudra. Vidura. What was his birth? Shudra. What was his occupation? Kshatriya. What was his guna? Brahmana. You see this whole flux, and it's very complex in terms of how you look at it. Now, if you see, who do we, Rama Rakat, Sri Rama. Sri Rama was he a Brahmana? No, he was a Kshatriya. Now, if Brahmanas who are accused of creating this divide, social divide, and creating imbalance in society, if we thought ourselves as the superior one, would we have made Rama a Kshatriya? No. What did we do? We made a non-Brahmana a Kshatriya, and we made the villain a Brahmana. And it was written by somebody who is not a Brahmana. Valmiki. Okay? Why? Because this is real. We didn't make it up. This is not something that was engineered by somebody. This is what happened. And it's reflective of how we saw society. It is not reflective of how we think society ought to be. It is reflective of how society existed. In fact, when the Greeks came here, the first texts that were written were the various tribes of India and the groups of India. This caste system was never mentioned. This is few hundred years before birth of Christianity. There was no thing of caste and the division of people. Everybody knew their role. They knew their dharma. They knew their ultimate goal is to reach moksha. They had their individual path, and they worked on it independently but harmoniously. Working harmoniously, they achieved greatness. This is how it is. So this is an important aspect. So I'm going to jump to the last conclusion part because I'm down to 5 minutes. Unfortunately, I can't cover all the things that I wanted to say, or what Periva wanted to say, but I could cover only so much. Our fundamental goal, according to Periva, I'm summarizing, is what? Purushartha, Dharmartha, Kama, Moksha. Moksha is the ideal, the highest point in life. Beyond that, there is nothing. And you have to, what is moksha? When you reach that, it is a supreme bliss. It's a blissful state. After that, you don't need anything in life. That is what your fundamental thing is. Our religion is the only one that does not have a beginning and therefore no end. It continues. That's why it is called Sanatana Dharma, eternal way of life. There is no one creator. There is no one prophet. There is no one author. This is something that has come down ages, and we have documented it. The rishis have documented it and given to us as Vedas. There are no scope for interpolation. This is something that is, because of the Gana system, remember I told you, even a syllable can change of how it is. Our religion is the only one that does not proclaim that its path is the only path and only its followers have right to salvation. We have to be very proud of it. This is magnanimous attitude. We have to be very proud of this fact. Our religion is the only one that allows people to see divinity in everything that they see. And people call us polytheists. We are not. There is one Paramatma that is reflected multiple ways. How I choose to see it may be different from how you see it. Doesn't mean me superior or you inferior, or you superior or me inferior. And we see it multiple different ways, and we associate or we see God in multiple ways, and we acknowledge God in multiple different ways. We are the only religion in the world who does not discriminate people based on birth, profession, economic or social status, or physical prowess. Every other religion discriminates people. Okay? How did the slave trade begin? How did the internship camps begin? All of them began with religious background and religious sanction. I've already talked about that. Okay? We are the only ones, we never discriminated against anyone. Even if there was any discrimination that did happen, an individual would have done it, or some individuals would have done it. Does not mean that you throw out an entire system, because it is not systemically sanctioned. Even if that discrimination happened, is it worse than the more than 160 million people that Islam killed across the world? Is it more than 120 million that the Spanish and the Portuguese killed in South America and Asia? It is not. It is not such a big crime. Even if that crime did happen, it's a crime nevertheless, but it's not that big a crime. Our religion is the only one where guidelines to life are provided, and you are given the free will to make the choice. You act per the dharma, your dharma, within the guidelines, and you rest your faith on karma to give you the right output. That is how we look at life. Our religion is the only one that, despite all internal differences, has never succumbed to waves and waves of conquerors who come in and who've subjugated us by religion, in the name of religion, and who we have never given into. We have foregone economic, social status and other benefits so that we remain who we are, Hindus. This is another great thing. Today, we have the most Hindus in the world, even when compared to 2,000 years ago. More than 1 billion Hindus we have, right, across the world. And that is the reason why, because we've democratized it. Our religion is the only one that has survived through millennia, through all the different religious clashes, invasions, the destruction of property, destruction of our way of life. Still, we have not given up. We will survive and continue to survive. Now, I will now appeal to you. This is my own appeal. Let us not forget our greatness. Our greatness is not something that you not have to be proud about it. We have to be proud about it, but it's not come from a sense of pride, but from a sense of gratitude. Our forefathers, our ancestors have given us so much and such a large pokisham, treasure for us to do. We need to take it forward. We can take it forward in multiple different ways. It's our fundamental duty to take it forward. We take it forward in 5 different ways. One is follow Devayagnya, that is prayer. Second is Pitrayagnya, honoring your ancestors. Brahmayagnya, protecting, preserving, propagating the Vedas. Manushya-yagnya, helping your fellow human beings. And Bhuta-yagnya, helping your environment as it is. So with all that, it is our duty to do it. If you don't know how to do it, go consult your Acharya, go consult somebody who in your Guru, in your Matam, and participate in it. Give something back and be part of the solution. Don't be part of the problem. Jai Jai Shankara, Hara Hara Shankara.
சிந்தனைகள் இவற்றை பற்றி எவ்வளவு தெளிவான பிரமிக்க வைக்கும் அறிவாற்றல், நினைவாற்றல், விஷய ஞானம் கொண்டிருந்தார். திரு அரவிந்த் சீதாராம் அவர்கள் மகாபெரிவரின் மகிமைகளை விளக்கும்போது வியக்கின்றோம், பிரமிக்கின்றோம். மகானை புதிய கோணத்தில் நமக்கு அறிமுகப்படுத்தினார். அந்த மகான் வாழ்ந்த அதே காலத்தில் நம்மில் சிலரும் வாழ்ந்தோம், அவரை தரிசித்தோம், சரணடைந்தோம். அந்த கருணைக்கு ஐயனை வணங்குவோம். பலரும் அறியாத பெரியவரின் சிந்தனையை நம்மிடையே பரிவுடன் பகிர்ந்து நம்மை மகானின் சன்னதியானத்தில் மீண்டும் சேர்த்த திரு அரவிந்த் சீதாராமன் அவர்களுக்கு நன்றி கூற வார்த்தைகள் இல்லை. தலை வணங்குகின்றோம். நன்றி.